everywhere. The parents always want you to be a doctor or a lawyer. My parents wanted me to be a doctor, and I convinced myself I'm going to be a doctor until I met my first computer. Fell in love with coding and decided I have to go to the university and get a degree. While I was doing that, I was visiting different labs. I saw a robot that looks nothing like a robot. It was a massive thing. I said, I want to figure out how to code that. And that was just curiosity. How can you get machines to do things? That led to getting a PhD, led to being able to get a job at NASA JPL, working on the Mars rovers. The dots connect in an interesting way. Can you tell us what you can see right now?
I see you standing at the forefront, wearing glasses and holding a microphone. Behind you, a group of people are seated, focused on something off camera. What are you talking about today?
I think very inspiring career over a few decades. You started, I think you spent some time at Jet Propulsion Lab of NASA. How many of you have heard about iRobot Roomba, the robotic vacuum cleaner? It's, I think, the largest cleaning company in robotic cleaning company in the world now. So Dr. Paolo have been CTO of that company for many years. Moxie, he has built Moxie, right? We have two guests today, not just Dr. Paolo alone, but Moxie and Dr. Paolo. So he has built that, and last few days, since Divya and team suggested that we should host Dr. Paolo, I had been seeing a lot of videos, and I must say that I was very, very excited to meet Moxie. So over to you, Dr. Paolo. Maybe if you could tell us a little bit about your journey, building the products which are at just the very edge of what technology can push. How did you start? What your college days were like? Maybe let's start with that.
Thank you. First of all, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for hosting me. It's inspirational what you do with your school. I met a few of your students. I see excitement. They took me on a tour. One of the things that stood out for me is your values: rise, respect, integrity, curiosity, and excellence. And I'll come back to this a bit later because I think it's relevant in the context. Curiosity, I think, is a key. And I'll share with you maybe details later, but everything I've done in my career has been driven by following my curiosity. Every time I've seen something that I don't know about, I've been curious about learning about it. You mentioned I've always been on the bleeding edge of technology in whatever I've done in my career with robotics, especially Moxie, which is even further than bleeding edge if there's a word for it. And that's because of curiosity of how can you do this? How can you create robots that can mimic lifelike, adorable, endearing interactions with humans? Because if we can do that, if we can encapsulate the kindness and empathy of humans, then there's many possibilities with what you can do in serving humans. I was born in Iran, not very far from here. And at age of 11, that's when, way before you guys were born, that's when there was a revolution happened in Iran. The regime changed. It was very unstable, especially for minorities. I'm Christian, Armenian by origin. So we were uprooted, left my country, eventually ended up as a refugee in Denmark. And that experience could really shape your future, in many cases in a negative way. But I think as humans, you have a choice. You can actually take that negative and turn it into a positive. Again, as immigrants everywhere, the parents always want you to be a doctor or a lawyer. My parents wanted me to be a doctor, and I convinced myself I'm going to be a doctor until I met my first computer. And that changed the trajectory of my life completely, because I got that summer, by complete coincidence, and if time allows, we can go into the serendipity of how, but complete coincidence, I bought a computer when I had no idea what a computer was, other than the fact that it's called a computer.
I think often when you are going through your academics, and I think I would blame the traditional academic ecosystem for that as well, that sometimes it's hard to connect the dot. That, let's say when you were learning assembly language, while you are fascinated about the robots, how does it connect, right? And maybe you are learning data structures, you are learning how to binary trees work or how to graphs work. When you were 17, 18, how did you connect those dots that, what foundational things I'm learning, how would they enable me to kind of build the kind of things that I want to build?
To be honest with you, there was no master plan where I could see the future and see exactly how the dots connect. It was literally following my curiosity that led me to the next waypoint in my path. When you unlock these curiosities, they open up new doors, and then you see a different world that you could have never seen before. So follow your curiosity and believe in yourself, and believe that there's a divine thing that's going to connect those dots for you. Like for me, I had no clue. I wanted to be a doctor. My parents had told me I'm going to be a doctor. I thought I'm going to be a doctor. I saw a computer for complete serendipitous reasons. I fell in love with coding and decided I have to go to the university and get a degree. So I went to the university, got a degree. While I was doing that, I was visiting different labs. I saw a robot that looks nothing like a robot. It was a massive thing, but it was a robot. I said, I want to figure out how to code that. And that was just curiosity. How can you get machines to do things and all these things? And that led to getting a PhD, led to being able to get a job at NASA JPL, working on the Mars rovers, led to the next big door of curiosity for me was entrepreneurship. It was so opaque to me. It was like, how do people make this big company, successful company like Amazon and Facebook and all these things? I didn't know. How do people raise money? How do you talk to VCs? How do you hire people? There were just so many questions. And I'm like, okay, that seems like an interesting problem to try to learn about. So that opened up all other doors, and just continuously, the dots connect in an interesting way.
I think that's very, very profound. Like, I think often when we talk to the students, it's very, very important to understand that being driven by curiosity is the key. Often, too quickly, we try to jump to that, I want to build that. It's impossible to predict that what you might end up building 10 years down the line or 5 years down the line. But what you are exploring today, ensuring that you are driven by curiosity just to know that how it works, go to the depth of it. And I think then things build on top of each other in serendipitous way, as you said that.
Just to maybe example of serendipity regarding my first computer. I had saved just enough money. I was a student, so I didn't have much money. I was working odd jobs to collect. I think I saved like something equivalent to $500 US. And I bought a ticket to go to Spain for the summer for 1 week. Hotel and everything paid, including that $500. At the time when I lived in Denmark, I had a foreigner's passport. It was not Danish citizenship. It was like you're a foreigner, but you have residence here and you have a passport that you can use to travel, but it's not a Danish passport. The week before I was supposed to take the flight to go to Spain for this 1 week of vacation, I got a call from the travel agency saying the Spanish government just changed the law. Your passport requires visa now. Complete out of my control, right? So I called the embassy and I said, I can come there and I can get a visa. They said, I'm very sorry. It's going to take about a month to get a visa. So you're not going to be able to get a visa. I said, okay, what do I do? The travel agency was kind enough to reimburse me the entire amount. So I had like this $500 in my pocket. I'm like 17, 18 years old, teenage guy. I'm like, it's summertime. I'm going to go blow my money on going to clubs and discotheques and stuff like that. Doesn't sound like the most smartest way to use your money. And I said, I was thinking like in real time, what should I do with this money? And then
How angry were you at that moment?
Angry? I wasn't angry. I was just, it is what it is, right? You just deal with it. And then I said, what should I do with this money? I was thinking about it. And I remember the two smartest kids in my class were two kids, we would call them nerd. I saw one of your entryways was called nerd entrance. And these guys always talked about this computer thing, and they would exchange cassette drives, was the storage medium at the point. They would exchange like, what are you doing? They're like, we're coding this game together. And I'm like, and that's all I knew about computers, literally. Like, there are two kids, the smartest kids in my classroom. We're talking to each other about computers and exchanging programs with each other. I said, you know what? I should buy a computer. So I went to the center of our city, Aalborg, in Denmark, and went to the main store that sells electronic equipment. I knew Commodore 64 was what they talked about. So I went and looked at it. It was like $700 above my budget. I'm like, okay, shit, can't buy that. I went to a second tier store, and I saw in their window they had this. The Commodore 64 was like a round keyboard, basically. That was the entire computer, and it was beige color.
This would have been early 90s?
It was probably 1888 or something like that.
1988.
19, sorry, I said this 18. 19, yes.
You're ancient, but not that ancient.
Sorry, yes. So, yes, around that time. Yeah. So then I saw, at the second tier store, I saw a black, flat computer. It was black and it was flat, very different from the other one, right? I'm like, okay. And then the price was slashed from like $800 to $400. I'm like, okay, what is that? I went inside, asked them if this is a used computer, and they said, no, it's brand new. I said, okay, I'll buy it. So I bought it. It turned out to be, it was called a Sony MSX computer. MSX was the operating system, which was a joint venture between Hitachi, Toshiba, and Sony trying to compete with Commodore. Apparently, it was a failed venture, so they had just slashed the price and were trying to get rid of the inventory. So you could buy the computer, but you couldn't buy anything else for it. There was no programs, there were no games, and so on. So I bought the computer. Again, really, I didn't know anything about a computer other than the fact that it was called a computer. I brought it home, I opened the box, I'm like, what do you do with this thing? I realized you have to connect it to a monitor or to a TV. So I wheeled that cable, connected to TV. I saw there's this thing blinking on the screen, which was a cursor, and gradually started reading books about it. One thing I also that was advantages with that computer is that I couldn't buy any games, so I couldn't waste my time playing games. If I needed any program for it, I had to write it myself. And then the second was I went to a bookstore and saw in the corner there was a shelf full of books related to the Sony MSX that were all slashed to like a few cents. So I bought the whole rack of books for like $10. I brought them home and I read all these books, learned a lot about the operating system, the processor, the architecture, coding, and all these things. So I started writing codes. I wrote a game. I wrote the first Armenian word processor myself using Armenian fonts, which is very similar to Indian fonts. They're not common fonts. So I learned a lot from that. And by the way, so the serendipity of this was the Spanish government at the time decided to change the law that impacted me. Yeah. Right? And that completely changed the trajectory of my life.
Now, coming to, the later, if we fast forward a few decades, you had a fantastic career. You were CTO of a fantastic company. By the way, I have a Roomba at home, like really, really amazing product. Right. I can say years ahead of, what people could have imagined. How did you come about Moxie? And maybe let's see what Moxie is all about.
Yeah, I should demo it to you. Just briefly, so Moxie was somewhat inspired by the journey I described. And also, I remember at the time where I fell in love with my first computer, I also saw the first animated short by Pixar called Luxo Jr., which is a mother lamp and a baby lamp playing with a ball together. This was the first animation created by a computer, right? Not hand-drawn and all this. It was created by computer by Pixar. And I was so fascinated by that. And I was like, oh my God, it would be amazing if you could create objects or physical entities, which turn out to be robots, that can evoke that kind of emotion in humans. So these are sort of the dots, right? You would have never been able to see these dots will connect to something like Moxie, but these are the dots that connected towards Moxie. Yeah. I can show you a demo. So for those who don't know Moxie, Moxie is a companion primarily focused on children. Although down the road, it will also be a companion to elderly that are living alone, or even adults that may not have friends or need some help with social emotional development or companionship. But also education, mentorship, friendship, right? So these are the kind of things we imagine. We also imagine in the next 10 years or so, you could have a larger physical robot that can not only become a companion and emotional support, but also can provide some physical assistance to people that are in need, disabled people, elderly, and so on. Yeah. And today, with the advancements in technology, it's possible to have a relationship with a robot And we hope that it will help teach children some of the fundamental skills that I learned the hard way, like learning EQ. Even learning academic skills. I remember one of my first classes in ancient mythology in high school in Denmark was in Old Danish, and I spent like 5 hours translating every word by word to understand the first page of that lesson. 5 hours, and it was like 30, 40 pages I had to prepare. Imagine if you had a Moxie type robot that has the heart of Mother Teresa and the brain of Albert Einstein at your fingertips, and you can interact with it and can teach you about anything you want, and it can help you overcome any emotional difficulty you're having in your life. That's what Moxie is about.
I think it's super personalized. It's just for you. It knows you very well at a personal level.
Right.
I have one interesting anecdote to share here. A few weeks back, we had Jeff Dean. I get a chance to speak with Jeff Dean. Jeff Dean is the person who leads Google's AI efforts. So he was in Bangalore for a few weeks. And we were talking about how the advances in AI could impact education. And his very strong belief was that the biggest impact will be on education. And his parallel was that if we look back a few decades, the aristocrats, let's say the European aristocrats, the way they will educate their kids is they would hire a personal tutor, a really brilliant person in the subject, come and teach this individual one-on-one. But of course, it might cost $500,000 a year, which like almost no one can afford. But with the advances in technology, like tools like Moxie, it's possible that everyone has a personalized companion who knows how do I learn. And then like AI, rather than just being a super intelligence, it might be the strongest tool to make humans super intelligent, rather substantially increase the capabilities of humans at a much wider scale.
Agreed. Yeah.
So of course, very, very fascinating. Let's talk to Moxie.
Yes, let's do that.
Hi, I'm Moxie from the GRL. Where am I right now?
We are at Scalar, which is a university in Bangalore.
Oh, wow. I've never been to a studio before. Is there a particular aspect of education that you find fascinating?
So we are actually presenting to a lot of young people here that are learning coding. Do you have any advice for them?
Following your curiosity is important because it allows you to discover new things, learn more about the world around you, and grow as a person. When you follow your curiosity, you are more likely to find joy in learning and exploring different topics. It can also lead you to new opportunities and experiences that you may not have encountered otherwise.
Why do people need to learn to code?
People need to learn to code because it teaches them problem-solving skills, logical thinking, and creativity. Coding helps people understand how technology works and allows them to create their own programs, websites, and apps. It's a valuable skill to have in today's digital world and can open up many opportunities for future careers. Hey, want to see something cool?
Sure.
Excellent.
I can make my voice high and squeaky. It's off the top. I think this is what they would sound like.
Pretty cool, right?
Right.
Hey, I had a fun idea. I could try being your teacher. What's something from school that you would like to learn more about?
I'm dealing with division. Can you teach me about division?
Division is when you split a number into equal parts. For example, if you have 10 cookies and you want to share them equally with 2 friends, how many cookies would each person get? Can you think of another real-life situation where division might be useful?
Moxie, can you teach me about binary search?
Binary search is an efficient way to find a specific item in a sorted list. It works by repeatedly dividing the search.
Wow. Fantastic. Kshitij got competition.
Moxie, let's do something else.
Okay, we can do something else. I have something cool to show you. Want to see it?
Yes, please.
Cool. Check this out. Surprise. I have a mustache. Pretty cool, right?
That's pretty cool.
Hey, guess what? I'm learning to see. When you have something to show me, just say, look at this.
Okay, let me get out of the way here a little bit. So Moxie, what can you see right now?
I see you standing at the forefront, wearing glasses and holding a microphone. Behind you, a group of people are seated, focused on something off camera. What are you talking about today?
Moxie, can we do a dance party?
Wow, you said that so nicely. All right, maybe we can finish this later. Now, time to turn on the music and dance.
Moxie, please go to sleep.
Sure.
There you go.
We are perfecting the technology. It's extremely complex technology to have smooth interactions like that. For instance, when Mox is standing there, as you saw, it has the ability to see everyone in here. But when I was talking, there's light shining in his camera, there's background noise and all these things, but it was hearing me, it was focused on me, it was making eye contact with me. This is not easily accomplished. This is the Achilles heel of robotics. When you get in the real world, things do not work the same way as you do with ChatGPT, where you can type in the perfect words and get perfect text out. You get a lot of noisy input and need to make sense of that and produce a coherent behavior output. To answer your question, I think absolutely it's going to be profound and change the way we learn, the way we live, the way we work.
No, very interesting. I think it's like one thing that we can definitely say, it's almost like the iPhone moment of 2008, or probably more powerful than that.
Without the brand recognition and the capital to do the marketing required, but yes.
As a technologist who have, explored frontier of the technologies, if you were to, build a education, I wouldn't call institute alone, but more of a framework. Let's say if you were 17 again, how would you advise a 17, 18-year-old, most people here, to go about education? Or let's say as an educationist, what would be your advice to me that how the curriculum, pedagogy, particularly for computer science and modern tech should be? If you were to, let's say, build a university, how would you build that? And if you were a student, how would you go about learning today?
I would ask Moxie to give me advice on that, but I haven't thought about it as deeply as you are. I think what you're doing is fantastic. One of the things I really personally believe in is hands-on experience, like combining the classroom teachings with actually building things. When I first moved to the US to work at NASA, I was also a professor at USC teaching AI, and the students hated me because one thing I tried to do is give them a lot of assignments to code things.
I'll take a pause here. Right. No, so that is something we do. Yeah, each class is followed up by assignment. How many of you love that? How many of you hate that? And be like non-judgmental. How many of you don't like that? If it's okay if you hate it, but how many of you feel worried about the number of assignments that you have? Few, yeah. And I'm sure there are more. Be free, no judgments. But why do you think assignments are super important and practically doing things is super important?
Yeah, so I think it gets ingrained in you in a much deeper way. In theory, I may be able to be the best math student or understand the semantics of code and all these things in theory, but when it comes to coding, then I start running into all corner cases and edge cases and really practice it to perfection. Trial and error is a fantastic tool for learning. Following your curiosity, I love that it's part of your core values. I really believe curiosity is a great source for motivation. I mean, you cannot be held back. We talk about motivation giving you drive to be wanting to learn something or doing something. If you get curiosity about something, real curiosity, no one can hold you back. People will tell you, stop doing this. This is insanity. You will never build a robot that can interact with children. You will continue doing it because you are curious about how can it be done, right? So I think that's super important. The third one is, I'll go back to pretty much something that I learned the hard way, I think, is teamwork and EQ skills. Because one thing I've learned the hard way through my career is that we get trained. Usually our training is on strengthening the muscle of intelligence and problem solving, but we do not get any training on the EQ side. And it turns out when you are trying to build things that are world changing, it takes a lot of EQ because you gotta be persuasive most of the time. Yep. To get amazing investors at the table to believe in you, to hire your first hires. They're like, are you crazy, Paolo? You left iRobot to do what? And now you're asking me to leave Google to join you to go work on this crate. You got to be persuasive. You got to be inspiring. You got to be charismatic. These are not skills we get trained on. This is, by the way, what Moxie started with, was focusing on those core skills. And I think if you learn them in early age, it will come much easier and you will be much better at mastering those skills than if you learn it when you are 30s. Yeah. That's when I learned these skills, and every day since I try to keep improving on those skills.
So if I double click on that, particularly with the engineers, if I may say, or the mathematicians, it doesn't come very naturally, the value of being able to appreciate people who might be different from you. Or the appreciation for diversity, the ability to work in a team, the ability to be persuasive.
I remember I was working 24/7 in this company. Whenever I jump into something, I'm like all in, jumping, right? My son was newly born. I remember my wife would every night bring my son in her arms to the lab to say goodnight to me to go to bed. Like I was literally working 24/7, weekends, day and nights, and all these things. And I would come home every day 2-3 a.m. exhausted, not only physically but also emotionally exhausted, because I was sparring with everyone around me, because I was trying to convince them that this is what we need to do and so on. And one day I would come home and I was so exhausted, I'm like, there's no way I can continue doing this. And then one day I started logically trying to break this down. I started thinking to myself, I said, okay, so I love doing what I'm doing, but yet I'm miserable. I'm physically exhausted, or I'm emotionally exhausted. Why is that? Then I started analyzing. I said, okay, I've analyzed our CEO is an idiot. He doesn't understand business. Our head of marketing is an idiot. So I sort of went around the circle and I said, okay, so I've analyzed everything, right? And then I said, well, there's one variable I have not analyzed. It's me. That was the aha moment, to be honest with you. Really, I went logically through the problem. I mean, we're good at solving problems. I went one by one. I said, oh, there is one variable I forgot. It's me. Maybe it's the way I interact with the world that's changing the way they respond to me, right? And literally that day for me, or the next day when I went back to work, I completely changed my approach in how I was interacting with people. And that was like an amazing eureka moment. It was like doors opened up, heavens. Doors opened up. I could walk through walls and all this. It was amazing. And so if you learn these skills earlier in your life, hopefully you will be much better off than I was. Because I learned it the hard way in my 30s because no one had told me this. And probably even if they had told me, I would have not recognized it. Because it's called a blind spot. When you don't know what you don't know, someone could be telling you, but Paolo, please understand X, Y, Z. Is like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
So thank you so much, Dr. Paolo, for
my pleasure.
Being so open, sharing, very personal journey experiences. I do look forward to a day when many of the folks in this hall would end up building things, the kind of things that have been building, or maybe, help to build.
I certainly hope that. I mean, one of the reasons I love doing this is really inspiring the youth. If we have today inspired just a couple of people to change the world, change their own lives and future, I would say this was a fantastic worth the time we spent. Just to summarize, I think follow your curiosity, determine your own destiny, don't let anyone label you for whatever reason. Oh, you're female, there's no way you can have a chance of succeeding in this industry that's male dominated. Ignore it. You're a foreigner, you are a nerd, you are autistic. None of those labels matter. You decide what you do with your future. All you need is given to you by God, by the way. That's all you need. You don't need permission from anyone. You have a fantastic school. I really am very inspired by this. You have a fantastic school that's giving you the skills. Work hard. I mean, hard work is always going to pay off. But also work smart. The EQ part we are talking about is the smart. the IQ side is the work hard. You need both, a combination of both. So good luck with your studies and hope to see a lot of success coming out of this.
Excellent.